Thank you for coming to our session. 10 amazing vSphere Foundation benefits to optimize your IT infrastructure. My name is Mark Chuang. I've been at VMware since 2007, back when I think vSphere wasn't even vSphere. It was still called VI 3.1, I think, back then. Part of our product marketing organization. In this session, I'll be joined by Himanshu Singh, also in the VMware product marketing team, and we're thrilled to have Travis Robertson with us, a customer who is using vSphere Foundation, so you'll be able to hear about his experiences. So I'll be bringing both of those gentlemen up here later on in the session. So disclaimer here, at Explore, you will be in sessions in which you hear a lot about future plans in directions, and we love being able to share that, right? In addition, of course, to products and capabilities that are shipping today. But because it's about future plans, we don't provide any guarantees on that. So that last line there is what my legal team always tells me to talk about, right? We can't put them into contracts. But let's dive in. So I just want to start by being able to share how we thought about the continued evolution of vSphere, right? What are the challenges and the customer needs that we're addressing? Give you an overview of vSphere Foundation, and then at that point, invite Travis to come on up to share about his experience. And then I'll be handing over the baton over to Himanshu, who will go deeper and double click into these 10 key capabilities that we want customers to understand about the value that they could derive. And then finally, just pointers to next steps for you to be able to learn more. But since it is shortly after lunch, I'm just going to start with a little bit of a live poll, kind of get us a little bit engaged here. And so the question is, which of the following capabilities is most important for your IT infrastructure? And you see the 5 things I've got listed there. We're just going to purely do this off of a show of hands. If you want to vote more than once, feel free to. That's totally fine as well. But just to get a bit of a feel around the room here. So how many would say that the first one, right, running VMs and containers on a single platform, that's important for you? Would you mind raising your hand? Okay, got a few here, got a few. All right, reliability and uptime. Raise your hands. Okay, thank you. Efficiency and automation. Okay, all right. Performance and scalability for your apps so you could continue to grow. Okay, all right. And then the last one, security and data protection. Okay, all right, all right. So we asked the same question to 450 plus VMware user group members, and those are the results there. Pretty consistent, I would say, to the hands raised here in the room. You see number 1 there being reliability and uptime. Absolutely, right? If it's not up, we all get phone calls. Security and data protection, very top of mind. I mean, of course, security always is, but with ransomware and other cyber attacks and all, I've seen that within the last 18, 24-ish months, right? That has just climbed big time in regards to top of mind and people's priorities. But, right, the others too, still important. The performance, the scalability, the efficiency, the automation, especially in light of the tighter IT budgets, right? And then more and more traditional running alongside Kubernetes so that you're not having to learn a whole nother platform with new tools, etc. Now, one of the reasons why we are very excited about vSphere Foundation is that no matter how you voted relative to these 5, vSphere Foundation helps you to address all of them. So you're not having to pick and choose, okay? But super helpful just to gain an understanding, right? Kind of validating this other data point we had. So an overview of the offering. Again, I've been working on vSphere a long, long time, so it's still very near and dear to my heart. But with vSphere Foundation, boosting the operational efficiency was one of the key objectives here. So building in that intelligent operations management with the proactive analytics, and we're going to get into that more. But you still got vSphere at the core there. I was in our expo booth earlier today. There was one of our colleagues that was giving a session about vSphere 8 Update 3, the latest and greatest one, and it was a lot of people there. Because at the end of the day, the things that you know and trust and love about vSphere in terms of the performance of the platform, whether it be for specific applications, your mission critical apps, or it be about the scalability as your estate grows bigger and bigger, right? That's all part of that, supercharging the workload performance there. Himanshu's going to come up in a little bit and talk about how, in particular in the last few years, a big investment so that you're able to take advantage of some of the newest innovations in the data center, whether it be the DPUs or whether it be GPUs, so that the applications get that latency, the performance, the utilization that's going to make your infrastructure the most effective possible. When we call out accelerate innovation here, we're really talking about, and I'm going to make an assumption that most folks here in this room, you're in the infrastructure in terms of your daily jobs. But why do we all do infrastructure? It's to be able to deliver the right resources to the consumers of this infrastructure. And so under accelerate innovation, it's about giving the platform engineers or the DevOps engineers that consume this IT infrastructure that we all provide, making it easy for them to then deliver infrastructure services ultimately up to that developer. Okay? So again, we're going to cover more about what we're doing there, including building in Kubernetes so that you're not having to manage that as a separate stack. And then finally, security. Okay? It is like layer zero of everything that we need to do. But we always want to find ways to continue to make that easier for you all to be able to maintain and improve your security and your compliance posture. Okay? So we'll highlight a few things there as well. Now, this is just a visual representation of what I just walked through, but I want to highlight that in addition to key capabilities that you get just right out of the box with vSphere Foundation, you've also got additional add-ons to address particular needs. The first one I've got called up there, the reason we're calling vSAN an add-on is because you're able to add additional capacity as you consume more and more. With vSphere Foundation, included in it is already a set of capacity, but as you grow, you're able to add more capacity. So that's what that circle up there represents. In addition, advanced load balancer, and then our VMware Live Recovery offering, because going back again to my earlier comment of cyber resiliency, being able to rapidly recover when you have been attacked by modern ransomware, which is a very different animal than the first generation of ransomware that came out 5+, 10+ years ago. I won't be going deep into VMware Live Recovery, but there are sessions here at Explore. We're demoing it in the booth, and it's all about how do you recover rapidly and confidently should a ransomware attack be successful and start encrypting data within your environment. Okay, so those are just additional advanced services to help you address some of these specific use cases. Now, where does vSphere Foundation fit in? Okay, I guess you're left, but starting my right, starting with vSphere that we all know. Okay, that's the bedrock. And with vSphere Foundation, it's adding in that intelligent operations and analytics that you see us calling out there. And then really where it fits in regards to customer journeys is absolutely, right? Not all customers are ready to go to the full stack private cloud of VMware Cloud Foundation where we're really about enabling that cloud operating model that everyone is ultimately striving for, because that's what's going to give you that combination of agility with the total cost of ownership that is so important for managing and operating the business critical applications and processes, okay? So VMware Foundation fits in there in regards to this overall private cloud journey spectrum. And as we've been talking with customers, the statistics I'm showing here actually come from a study that we did with Forrester, in which they interviewed customers that have deployed vSphere Foundation today. And so those stats are actually a composite result of those interviews, asking them about the environment before, what their needs were, and what they've been able to achieve. So you see here the gains in the operational efficiencies, the reduction in the issue resolution times, as well as the reductions relative to downtime, and finally the number of just unexpected kind of last minute hardware costs, because fundamentally they've been able to gain much better visibility into what their needs are and plan further ahead, so you're not having to deal with these last minute fire drills. But it's one thing for me to just share stats with you, and we thought that it'd be super helpful if you actually heard from a customer of vSphere Foundation. So with that, I'd love to invite Travis Robertson to come on up. Thank you. Travis, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So Travis, let's just start with some basic intros. Could you introduce yourself, your role, a little bit about your organization?
Okay, yeah, great. Travis Robertson, I'm the IT manager for a company, Topan Inter-America. We are in the decorative printing market. This is a manufacturing industry, large-scale analog printing. So it's not the digital printing that most people are used to. It's very analog systems. So we're in the manufacturing space. So we have our unique challenges with manufacturing, especially on the IT side of things. I started there, been there for roughly 25 years. So I started there as basically like the IT janitor in college, and kind of worked up through the ranks, learning infrastructure. I grew up using Workstation, so I've seen the product expand. I've expanded the uses of it, so that's kind of where we are today.
Awesome. So what were some of the key IT initiatives that you were having to address, recently? And then we'll get into vSphere Foundation here in a moment.
Okay, yeah, on the infrastructure side, we've got two manufacturing sites. We have a lot of our compute is on-prem, so basically 2 data centers. And I raised my hand to the second question there, where availability is one of our most important things, is keeping the IT side of things running so it doesn't put delays on our manufacturing systems. So that's an important piece, and then the security behind that. So leveraging tools like vCenter is very important in our IT environment to keep the wheels spinning, everything like that. So.
Okay. So you guys have deployed vSphere Foundation. Could you just kind of share and walk us through, what were some of your key considerations leading up to making that decision? And now that it is deployed, are there a handful of capabilities that you would say has been the most valuable for you guys?
Yeah. We've kind of moved up the vCenter ranks. Started at standard, we're using enterprise. Again, being in the manufacturing space, when it comes to IT investments, CapEx, we're kind of fighting against manufacturing, so we don't have the high-end servers. It's not easy to get those type of resources, so we're looking for tools to best utilize the hardware and software investments we make. So looking at vSphere Foundations, it gives us those abilities in vSphere. DRS is something I love, being able to move things around on the fly, keeping systems running. From there, I'd used vSphere Operations back in the past, and we had moved off that product. But now with VVF, we're looking at RE Operations. That's a key piece. So like I said, we have 2 data centers, being able to have one console that I can look at both those data centers. I can receive any type of notifications if anything's not running properly, if VMs are, out of disk space or anything like that, I can receive those proactive notifications, fix them before they become a bigger problem. So those tools like that. And then right sizing is another key component that we use, again. So that CapEx and investment that we're making, being able to squeeze the most we can out of the hardware we have is very critical to us.
Yeah, super helpful. What's next? What other things might you be evaluating for the future?
Yeah, so now that I'm back in the ARI landscape, I've deployed the logs to gather some of the, like the vSphere, the ESXi logs and things like that. I want to expand that footprint, so start feeding it, whether it's some of my network logs or other logs from other systems, just to ingest all that data so I can help troubleshoot things when that time comes. Just again, for a small IT department, it's best to have like as many tools in one basically landscape that we have, and that's what I'm trying to do, is squeeze as much out of the product as we can. So,
fantastic. All right, well, last question. Anything else, any pointers or tips or just general thoughts that you would like to share here with this audience?
One thing I always mention, I'm involved in the vMug community, so I'm a leader for the Atlanta community. I've gotten a lot out of the vMug community through my 25 years of working with products and things like that. It's one of my favorite communities, so I would recommend anybody that's not tied into the community or would like to know more about the community, we're over in the hub. So stop by there, learn about that. It's a great tool. It's great individuals out there. It's a way to increase your network, increase your education, and it's just a great tool to have. So I'd always strongly recommend that. If you're not plugged into a community, do that. Other people can help you out. So.
Oh, fantastic. Always love that plug for vMugs.
Yeah.
Travis, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, so before I bring Himanshu up, I'm just going to summarize the key use cases and the benefits. I've hit upon a couple of these, but let me just kind of package it all together. When we're thinking about vSphere Foundation, right, going back to those 4 key things we wanted to deliver to you as benefits, in terms of boosting operational efficiency, you actually heard Travis mention it, right? We want you to get as much utilization out of your infrastructure as possible, because that's how you're going to get the return on investment, right? We want to help you to meet your service level agreements to the consumers of this platform, whether that be in the form of giving you better performance monitoring or the proactive analytics, so that ultimately you're able to troubleshoot faster when issues do come up. Moving on to supercharging your workload performance. I'm going to do an impromptu poll. AI, generative AI, ML workloads, how many of you are running those or getting requests to run those in your environment? Can I just get a quick show of hands? Okay, so still early, but I think over time, I'm anticipating we'll have more hands raised, in subsequent months and years, right? With the cost of GPUs nowadays, that is one of the most expensive hardware resources in your environment. And so we're constantly looking at ways to be able to improve your visibility so that once again, you're able to maximize the utilization for those AI ML workloads. And then if I'm looking at just how you keep your applications healthy, right? The performance management, the analytics that I mentioned before, right? If that infrastructure is healthier, your workloads will be running more optimally. And that includes the workload balancing and placement. Travis had mentioned DRS up there, right? A bedrock capability for us there. And in terms of accelerating innovation for the consumers of this platform that ultimately are serving those developers, by bringing together and having a CN, CF, conformant version of Kubernetes integrated into vSphere, you've now got that single platform, okay? You're not having to spend the dollars or do the additional training by having to bring in yet another solution. And then giving you the ability to provide self-service access to those platform engineers, to those DevOps engineers for the infrastructure services that they ultimately need to serve up to developers in order to accelerate the time to market for the applications that are usually the lifeblood of innovation for companies across all industries. And then finally, elevating your security posture. We work a lot with our ecosystem partners, such as in the identity federation space, so that you can have that robust identity management, making sure that the right users are getting access to the right resources and only those resources, making sure things like the two-factor authentication is all easy to use and built in. But it's also about either industry-related regulations, or even if you're not in one of those highly regulated industries, I'd be willing to bet that you have internal policies about governance and compliance. And so how do we give you the tools to stay compliant and maintain that governance? And then finally, we'll talk about some of the kind of new security capabilities, but the point I want to make here is we got to make it, we always strive to make it easy for you to turn on. And so wherever possible, we try to make the security sessions enabled by default, although you always have the ability to switch it off if it's not working or you need to do that for some reason. But the reason we follow this as a philosophy is we fundamentally believe that if security is hard to implement or hard to turn on, it's not going to get used. Okay? So wherever possible, whether it be things like data at rest encryption, et cetera, right? We try to make that easy, a checkbox, and it's turned on. Okay? With that, I'm now going to hand the baton over to my colleague here, Himanshu Singh, who's going to walk through these top 10 capabilities at the next level. Himanshu?
All righty. Thank you, Mark. Hey, everybody. Thank you for the warm welcome. Appreciate it. Day one of Explore 2024. This is awesome, seeing such a big crowd, full room. And you guys are kind of awake even though it's after lunch, so that's good to see. As Mark said, my name is Himanshu Singh, so I focus on product marketing for vSphere. I've been at VMware for about 11 and a half years now, and still loving it. So been moved around, so I've focused on some of the ARIA stuff before. It used to be called vRealize. Before that, it used to be called like vCenter Ops. Like, who remembers vCops? Yeah. Login site. We had, vRealize Ops Insight, a bunch of those things that I used to work on, and then vSphere, vSOM. So actually, with VVF, or vSphere Foundation, it's kind of the, if you remember vSOM, it's vSOM on steroids at this point, and we'll talk about how. But let's talk about top 10 capabilities. Before we do that, though, told you a little bit about myself. I want to learn a little bit about you. And the truth's going to come out. So, show of hands, who here is running vSphere 8 Update 3 already? That's a bigger number than I thought. All right, 8.0, U1, U2. All right, yeah, so 7. Yep, as expected. All right, 6. 2 guys. All right, brave people, still running 6. Now, older than 6. Anybody here still running anything that's on older than 6? Back over there, 5.5? Of course it is. I want to commend you, not because you're running 5.5, but you're admitting it publicly. So, I mean, moving on. All right, let's talk about what are the top 10 capabilities of VMware vSphere Foundation that you really, really need to know? All right, number 1, intelligent operations management and advanced analytics. This is obviously the big delta when you go from vSphere Enterprise Plus to vSphere Foundation, right? As Mark talked about, as Travis highlighted as well, right? This is important because what you're getting here in this case is you're getting this nice console experience which brings everything in one place, right? You've got your global inventory, you can look at your entire environment, like Travis has got kind of 2 different data centers going on, and you can look at this multi-vCenter environment all in one place. Nice to have that visibility that you couldn't have with Enterprise Plus, for example, right? In addition to that, you've got the monitoring capabilities that lets you see what's going on with everything at the cluster level, at the host level, and all your VMs, containers, Kubernetes clusters, everything, right? The idea is you want to make sure that you have that monitoring and easy monitoring and upfront monitoring capability so you can figure out and you can easily see, hey, are my workloads getting the resources that they need? And if there is an issue, then you have troubleshooting capabilities available. You have a lot of AI-driven and ML-driven analytics that's available, especially through the log insight and log analytics capabilities as well. Troubleshooting and remediation is significantly faster than you could have done with just kind of core vSphere. And you can automate that in a lot of cases as well, depending on, again, what's your comfort level with automation, because not everyone wants like full automation on everything, right? All right, moving on. Next one is cost and capacity optimization. This is kind of a big one, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're looking for being able to support more and more workloads with what you have, you need to squeeze everything out of your infrastructure, as Travis was talking about earlier, right? So what you get is ability to do capacity planning, being able to get an idea in terms of, hey, what's going on in my environment? And the tool is able to look at historical utilization trends and patterns. It's able to look at what's likely from a predictive perspective, what's likely to happen, and then give you an assessment overall as to when you're going to run out of capacity, for example. You can also run what-if scenarios for specific type of workloads, and you can kind of figure out, hey, if this project is coming in a couple of months or whatever, what does it look like in terms of my existing capacity? What am I going to really need? So you can plan for that. And this is, again, going back to where that 100% reduction in last-minute hardware cost kind of comes in, because you're able to plan these things so far in advance that you don't get surprised. The other one is, and kind of the big one is reclamation of capacity, right? So being able to easily see idle VMs, old snapshots, over-provisioned virtual machines, et cetera, because whoever comes in and asks you for a VM always has exactly the right specs that they're never gonna, they're always gonna exceed, right? So anyway, so those kind of things help you reclaim significant amount of existing capacity so you are able to serve and support additional workloads without having to go and purchase new hardware, for example, right? So there's a lot of cost savings that comes out of that. And then if you guys do showback or chargeback in your environment, you're able to see LOB-wise or application-wise usage of the infrastructure, get cost information from there, and then be able to then show it back to the application team or the line of business team to be able to then show back or charge back if possible. Number 3, reduction of maintenance windows. I think this is probably the most important one for this room, especially given how you guys voted. So yeah, uptime is kind of important, and all our jobs depend on it. So vSphere Lifecycle Management, we've made significant enhancements here. So I'll talk about ESXi first, right? We've had the ability for you to be able to pre-stage your ESXi kind of images beforehand, before you get to the maintenance window. So that helps you reduce the maintenance window. You can do multiple host remediations in parallel than you had to do sequentially before. That helps with that as well. And now with 8U3, we've also introduced live patching for ESXi. So you're actually able to not having to do reboot, not having to do VM evacuation, and go through that patch upgrade process in this case, which is phenomenal, right? This is V1 of the feature right now, so it's limited to critical patches that we are coming out with roughly every 3 months or so, the quarterly patches that you get. But we're definitely working on expanding that, and we'll have more and more kind of patches that'll be live patch eligible. So you'll see that. We definitely have a ton of sessions that are going to go into a lot more detail about each of these individual capabilities. So you'll have a lot more opportunity to kind of go through those and learn more about them. This session has to cram so much in that we can't go into too much detail. Let's see. The other one I want to call out is, of course, vSphere config profile, that's another kind of important one, came out a couple of years ago, and we've been adding capabilities to that one. So at this point, what you're able to do now is be able to look at configuration of your hosts in a specific cluster, be able to manage that very easily, and then you can take a snapshot of that, and then when you're creating a new cluster, you can simply apply those same settings to the new one, and then boom, that's it. Everything's ready, all the policies have been set, all the configuration has been done. It makes it much, much easier in this particular case. Talking about vCenter a little bit. So we've introduced reduced downtime upgrades for VC. What that does is, again, it is able to bypass and shorten significant number of steps as part of the overall update process. So the window you need to take for a VC upgrade is significantly shorter as well. All right, next one, vSphere with IaaS services. So with vSphere Foundation, you have kind of core vSphere Enterprise Plus, and then you also have Tanzu Kubernetes Grid Service added to it on top of that. Now, because of this, and because of the fact that the supervisor in vSphere already has Kubernetes embedded in it, now you have a single solution to be able to manage all your VMs and Kubernetes clusters with one API, one way to do it all, one platform to manage it all. Okay. Essentially, the idea is you've got kind of this IaaS control plane. That is where all this happens. We've got all these services that are available to you. I'll go into a little bit more detail in subsequent slides, but one of the key things here is, as the IT admin, we're introducing something called LCI, or the local consumption interface, and I'll talk about it, which is kind of the UI for the admin. For the DevOps teams, for the platform engineers, you have access to declarative APIs to be able to do that, to interact with the services and provision resources. And the developer is able to just focus on application logic and absolutely doesn't have to worry about infrastructure at all. Okay? So just simplifying things and giving people the interface that they really prefer. So a little bit more detail on that one. Number 5, self-service access to infrastructure resources. So this involves things like the VM service that we just saw on the previous slide, additional services from the supervisor like storage, networking, et cetera, et cetera. Also, one of the really cool things we've done with just the recent release is that, one, we have included the TKG service into the supervisor. We have brought it in, so it's more integrated this way, so you don't have to get it separately. And we have also made it independently updatable. So all this while, what you had to do is you had to wait for a VC update or a new release to come out, and then you're able to get the new upstream conformant version of Kubernetes from TKGS. But now, because it's independently and async upgradable, you can do that at any point in time. So what that lets us do is, as soon as a new upstream Kubernetes version is released, we are very quickly able to then update our own service, make that available to you. You get the latest features much, much, much faster. This is basically the same as what you would see in a public cloud hyperscaler kind of environment as well. Okay. All right, moving on. LCI, local consumption interface. So we've had something called cloud consumption interface available for some time. And the idea essentially is, and it is only available in VMware Cloud Foundation. It works through the combination of vSphere and ARIA automation, or now called VCF automation, bringing them together to create this nice UI for you to be able to provision your infrastructure resources, application blueprints, everything, right? And on the VVF, or vSphere Foundation side, you didn't have that capability. You still had CLI, you still had APIs, but this nice UI was missing, and that's what we brought in. And this is what I was talking to when I mentioned earlier about the admin UI, basically, the UI that the admin prefers, because it just looks like vSphere. Right? At the end of the day, there's no learning curve in this particular case. It just works like you're used to working with vSphere. And that's the beauty of bringing this all together, making all this integration work, so that it's about kind of coming to where you are versus making you go and figure something new out, right? And the idea is, of course, you can do all the configuration and all the settings and everything on the right side over there, in my right, I guess. And at the same time, it's automatically generating YAML code that can then be immediately used by the DevOps engineers or platform engineers, make changes, et cetera, and then that is very portable, right? So it's giving you the language of the admin and the platform team in one UI, and you guys can easily communicate and collaborate versus having to figure out. And so we do the translation for you, essentially. Moving on. Number 7 is identity federation, access control, and licensing. Lots of big words there. What do they mean? So first one, identity federation. So we've been supporting multiple identity providers. We kind of went into this because what we don't want to do is to make vSphere or vCenter kind of another place where you have to create, store IDs and manage IDs and everything for audits, et cetera. It becomes a mess as well. And what you typically want to do is you want to do like a single sign-on, use the identity provider that you have in your environment already, and then just make that work with a vSphere and VVF as well. So there's definitely that. You can use ADFS, you can use Okta, you can use MS Entra ID, and then we added Ping Federate with the recent release as well. Now, in addition to that, what we've done is we made sure that all the components of vSphere Foundation work through single sign-on. So previously, you had to log in separately to the ops piece and the logs piece and vCenter, et cetera. Now, single sign-on, everything just works together. And then licensing as well, one place to track all your licensing and be able to just get that view in one shot. Just makes it easier to keep track of things. Next one, governance and compliance, the most interesting topic, compliance. All right. So yes, security hardening, all that stuff is kind of in there. When it comes to regulatory compliance, you're very easily able to see and get a view of what's your compliance posture looking like, right? And then what things that are out of compliance, you can set policy to do auto-remediate, or you can do remediation yourself. It just makes it significantly easier to identify and take action with the vSphere Foundation. And of course, if a company has ESG commitments specifically as well, and if you're tracking those, you can get your sustainability posture report as well. I think same idea. You can look at what's happening over there. We've got something called green metrics that we've introduced, and you're able to see usage patterns across applications, across workloads, across teams, and then be able to take action if there are certain areas that are not really compliant with your ESG needs. And centralized certificate management as well in this particular case. The idea being that if you have certificate expiration and certificate non-compliance, et cetera, happening, you have one place with that unified console that I talked about right in the beginning to just see all of that together and manage it all very easily. Number 9, continuous performance optimization, because uptime is good, but then you also want to make sure that the workload is not just available, but also getting all the performance that you're expecting out of it. So in this case, what's happening is, with the operations component, you're getting that performance data from all sorts of pieces, everything that's connected to the VC, to your environment, and be able to see that in really nice, simple, easy, out-of-the-box dashboards, be able to get that report if you need to, depending on whatever format is preferable, and then be able to make sure that, from an SLA perspective, you've got things covered. The other one is, from a workload placement perspective, this is another interesting one, combination of things coming together. Of course, for DRS, you can do the initial kind of placement, et cetera, as well. With the analytics information that the ops component is bringing in, you're able to do that a lot more proactively and get a lot more predictive analytics to be able to, for the tool to be able to make placement decisions. Of course, you've got your policies when it comes to placement, so it's going to follow that. It's not going to break any of that. But at the same time, you get significant additional kind of guidance when it comes to placement decisions kind of being made. All right. And then the next one is we're not just doing it for all your VMs, but also now for your Kubernetes clusters. So this is something new that just came out in the new release. It's about if you've got your Kubernetes clusters and you've got nodes that are underutilized, it can automatically scale down. When your demand comes up, it can automatically scale up as well, making sure that the performance that the workloads need is available to them, and you're not running out of capacity, not running out of resources. All right. Number 10, add-ons. So Mark talked about these. I'll cover them quickly, but let's start with kind of, the idea essentially is you've got a ton of capabilities when it comes to vSphere Foundation. But on top of that, for specific customers, you might have certain use cases that you really care about. So for example, if you're looking to take your kind of virtualized environment and really turn it into hyperconverged infrastructure, right? You can take the vSAN add-on and adopt that basically to make that transition. If you are concerned about ransomware recovery, you want to have a disaster recovery plan, Live Recovery is the add-on that's available to you. And then, of course, there's a basic load balancer that comes with tons of Kubernetes grid service that's part of vSphere Foundation. But if you're looking for advanced load balancing capabilities at the application level and managing all that, the AVI load balancer is also available. Okay. All right, let's see. So those were the top 10 that I wanted to cover. This slide, I did want to highlight one thing, right? I think all of us know, like with vSphere, we've got the best virtualization solution in the industry. But at the same time, it's always good to get like external validation. And this is from G2, and G2 does these feedback and surveys, et cetera, with customers. So in fact, they are on site as well. They do have a booth here. And you guys can, if you're interested, you can go down there and you can actually put in your comment about any of the, the Broadcom products, basically, right? So it could be vSphere, it could be vSphere Foundation, it could be anything, whatever you're using. And then they'll also, as part of that, I think there's either like an option to get a gift or something, or you can actually donate to the Girls Who Code Foundation as well. So there's a really nice option. So to share your feedback and do something really nice at the same time as well. So plug for them, but the idea here is this case is folks like you are giving this feedback based on real world scenarios. And that is why vSphere is not just #1 for server virtualization, but also a leader when it comes to container orchestration. Okay. All right, before we end, we did want to give you a couple of pointers of other sessions that you probably don't want to miss. So there's the 3 transformations for a smarter way to cloud session that's happening tomorrow at 1. That's a big one. We've got some really, key execs presenting very, very important topics. There's an amazing demo that you just have to see in that session. William Lamb is going to be doing that demo. And if some people at least should know who William Lamb is, right? Some of us do know who William Lamb is. If you don't, go check out the demo in the session tomorrow. Really cool demo. It talks about VMware Cloud Foundation, actually, and what's coming, kind of, in the future and whatnot. So you want to definitely check that one out. We're going to have somebody from NVIDIA join us on stage as well for some interesting things that we can't share today, but we'll share tomorrow. And then the other session I want to call out is 4 steps to deploy a resilient private cloud. This is another key one that's actually happening on Wednesday at 2. It gives you this prescriptive guidance and looks through specific use cases when it comes to private cloud deployment and how to get your own kind of private cloud assessment where you are in that journey potentially. And then the third one is focused on what used to be called ARIA operations, but is now renamed to VCF operations. So that's a component. I've been talking about like the ops component of vSphere Foundation. That's what that is. And so that's a deep dive into the VCF operations component, essentially. So definitely an interesting session to check out. And that's tomorrow morning at 10:30 after the general session. Okay. All right. In case anybody did not get their tickets for the raffle, the drawing that we're doing, come find me in this corner. I have some extra ones, so just in case you missed those when you came in, I can give you those. But I think with that, oh yeah, don't forget to take your survey. That's kind of an important one because it gives us feedback as to what you liked, what you didn't like in the session. It gives us information about how do you make this experience much better for you. Because at the end of the day, this is about you, right? You can always reach out to us on X at vSphere and VCF handles there, right there, and on LinkedIn as well. And then if you just go to vSphere.com, an easy URL to remember, I hope, you can just find a ton of resources on vSphere Foundation with all sorts of collateral. And depending on if you want to share something with an exec in your organization or someone who's more of a technical subject matter expert, there's a variety of things that are available for you to check out. All right, with that, thank you so much for coming up. Thanks from me and Mark and Travis. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of Explore.